Hello and welcome to the Get to Know Bear podcast. My name's Sean. Joining us today is the one and only Marco Hungry Jacks, Mr. H. David. How are you?
Not bad, Sean. A lot better now. I'm sipping on this deep green elixir. Bloody bit of lime cordial for your Thursday arvo.
Lime cordial's having a moment.
Yeah?
Yeah, in the past fortnight. And my dad came around because dad drives around a lot for work, and then he'll text me and be like, "Oh, I'm in Thornbury till 3 o'clock. Can I come over for a cup of tea and stuff?" Came over and he's like, "I've been on my feet all day. Like I couldn't really have a tea. Like, do you have something more refreshing?" I'm like, "I got beer." And he goes, "No, I'm still working." And I'm like, "You want water?" He goes, and Dad doesn't really like water. And then he goes, "You got any cordial?" I'm like, "I actually do."
Right.
Fully unpacked my whole shelf. I've got half my stuff on the bench. Oh yeah, here's this crystallized jar of green liquid, and that's what we're drinking right now.
What is it? Let's settle this on the record. What's the brand? What's the famous brand of cordial they make in Australia? Coddies, that's it.
Yeah, this isn't Coddies.
Old jug of Coddies. This isn't Coddies.
No, this is LD Coddies.
This is LD Coddies. That's even better.
Yeah, because I think green's fruit punch.
Yeah, right, okay.
I could be wrong. Blue at one moment was green was also raspberry.
Really?
It's stupid. Yeah.
It just tastes like green.
Yeah.
I said lime, but it is definitely just green.
Yeah, there's no citrus in this. Yeah. But how are you?
Oh yeah, been a bit unwell actually, Sean. Taking the last 2 days off work. Just been burning the candle at both ends. Little bit socially, mostly work-wise. The boss has been away in Japan for a month.
The mics are recording.
Yeah. Just like you, the boss, are going to be away in Japan for a month as well.
No rest for Mike.
And I reckon I woke up on Monday before we watched game 2, and I was like, I'm not feeling great, but that might just be the dread of the Boston Celtics, having another easy win, but we'll get to that. And then, woke up on Wednesday morning, and I was like, I had a bit of a bad sleep, I'll just roll over for another half an hour, be a bit late to work, actually wake up, I'm like, I feel terrible. Like, I feel really bad. So yesterday was like a proper, a sick day. Like, I slept until 11:30. Yeah. Half watched like 6 episodes of the X-Files, like going in and out of sleep, a bit feverish, etc. Today I woke up and like, I probably could go in if I had to, but I'm feeling a bit sick. Just had a full-blown teenager sick day. 5 hours of SimCity 4 Deluxe on the couch, and Game 3 of the NBA Finals as well.
Were you sipping on lemonade as well? Like when you're like, I'm sick at home. Lemonade's good for tummies, but maybe it's also good for...
I ate a lot of chocolate. I'm pretty... I think first thing I had when I woke up was... Have you ever had a Pinky's bar?
Is it like fluffy marshmallow?
Yeah. My housemate Zach brought it back from New Zealand. He reckons it's a delicacy over there. Terrible way to start your day. Marshmallow, caramel, and chocolate.
Yeah, I have had one with caramel. Fuck yeah. But what were you doing on SimCity?
So, have you played SimCity before? Or?
I played the new one, like Skylines, and I played like the very first one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not 4 Deluxe.
SimCity 4 Deluxe. It's just like Skylines, but much simpler and easier. Every time I played Skylines, I'm like, well, I can't get anything to work.
What the fuck's an arterial road?
And I think it's one of those games I'll pick up like once a year, and I'll just binge it for a few days. But man, I think I had my best build. Today. Usually I go like, all right, just like fucking lay the foundations for a huge city, just get everything in place, and then like let it develop. Costs balloon before income comes up, and I end up running out of money before I can get anywhere. Today I was like, all right, I'll just start small, really, really concentrate, get services up, get education and health going well, good public transport, and then I'll expand once I've really reached capacity with what I've laid out. Worked like a charm. I'm making money hand over fist, but then I've run into this funny problem, which I believe, is mimicked in real world city planning, where my original neighborhood, because I spent so much time on it, it's full of all like rich cunts living in mansions. And then like the outer suburbs are like, you know,
High rise.
High rise,
right.
you know, low
get
and
the
medium level income, and it's like I can't get these rich guys to move out of their houses so we can develop stuff like in the middle of the city. So
fun.
it's a funny visual at the moment. It's like when you like looking out over Brunswick towards the city and you see like Carlton and Fitzroy is all like no apartments because those people won't sell their terraced homes and develop them.
And everyone wants them.
Yeah.
Fuck, wow. That's, real life problems.
Great day.
I don't really play SimCity much, but I watched this guy. I've watched, like, this is his, like, this is the fourth city that I've watched him build.
Right, yeah.
And all these builds, he's an actual urban planner in real life, right? So when he does stuff, he's like, this is what we do in my town. He lives in, like, Ohio or some shit.
Yeah.
Some small town. And he plans, gets, like, millions of views, or maybe hundreds of thousands of views. Such great content. And then he comes up with all these like mayoral elections that are just completely run by him.
Yeah.
And then that dictates his next decision. So it's like, oh, there's an election, and then do we want to prioritize like rural areas or education in the city and stuff?
Right.
And then this is all part of each city he makes is part of the universe of all these other builds.
God.
And so like he's finished. I can't remember the name. He finished like this city, and then he built up. Started on his new SimCity Skylines, but then he goes back to the other one and just be like, oh, this is how they're going. Like, this is what the mayor did. Yeah. So the series never actually ends.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then I downloaded the game. I spent like $30 guys, and then I played it. I was like, oh my god, I don't want to do this. I just want to watch him do it.
Insanely steep learning curve on Skylines. I think. Yeah. How does he do the mayoral elections? Is he like live streaming it and people vote, or is it like it happens in the
stream.
the game?
He does stream. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
Because I've always also been like, all right, I'm gonna build like. As they encourage you to do, like I'm going to build a utopia here, right? It's going to be, you know, good public schools, good health system. I mean, they make you build police stations, good public transport. I love to just build like a complete hellscape one day, jack taxes up, completely defund schools, rake in money, and then see what happens to the city.
The dude I watch, Magnolia Bay, is one of the counties. His name's City Planner Players, so I would encourage people to check him out if they're interested. But that Anarchy thing, I watched this guy called Amphibious Amphibian. Have you seen him?
No.
So he'll do shit where it's like, can I like make $1 million with only one tile? Like everything has to be on the tile. So he's like deleting stuff, playing it like as soon as possible, or it'll be like no sewerage or like no electricity. Like he'll do all these self-imposed challenges. Yeah.
Jesus.
Like he did this one where each tile is a completely waterlogged island. So there's no connections between all the tiles and stuff.
God.
So like so cool. But I feel like I should put links in the fucking description.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna get right into it. That's right up my alley.
Well, Luke had COVID. That being Lucas had COVID a couple of months ago. And then it was like before he went to Europe, and I just messaged him and said, "Hey, you might like this," and he's like, "Fucking oath, cunt." So I'll send it to you.
Yeah, nice. It was that or the Cleat Productions 5-hour. I rebuilt the 2016 Anthony Davis New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, that's. I feel like we should put that on the deep news. It's so funny. But yeah, back to business. We're talking about the NBA Finals, specifically Game 3 and what that means for the league moving forwards. But we're here recording on Thursday after work, and we aren't going to publish this until, I think, Friday or Saturday, because if you haven't already listened, there is a podcast episode out on this very podcast network called the Deep 2 Podcast Network, where one Xavier Cooks joins Lucas Petridis on the Deep 2 NBA podcast to talk about all things NBA, all things Olympics. I mean, he's literally a boomer, has been Washington Wizard.
Two-time NBL MVP, Finals MVP, etc., etc.
Fucking listen to that podcast. So we're recording today, pushing this podcast back a few days so that Lucas, who's got the incredible guest on now, can publish as soon as possible. So listen to that. And the reason we mention that is because if some of our takes seem a little bit immediate, that's because they're completely
immediate.
And we don't have the for example, if we saw that Kristaps Porzingis rolled his ankle, we wouldn't have known that it was, of course, a torn medial reticulum, which allowed the dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon. Like, we would just say, oh, is he out for the next game?
Yeah.
There were no injuries, but you know what I mean. Should we get into it, game 3?
Yeah, let's go.
So, obviously, Porzingis was away with the injury that I'm not going to try and repeat again.
I'm glad you did say it once, though.
And, the fucking Mavs just ran away with it at the start. It was like a 7-2 run at the start of the game. I think it got out to about 13 points. And then the Boston Celtics pulled it back. One of the more intense games these playoffs, I think I've watched.
Yeah,
definitely more fun. Like I chewed my nails off watching this game, which was exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But what stuck out to you?
Yeah, best game the Boston Celtics have been involved in this playoffs, I would say. And immediately you could tell the Mavs were just looking at that hole where Porzingis was. I mean, he didn't even start game 1 or 2, but I feel like there was just like that hesitancy to throw up lobs from Luka, that hesitancy to get into the paint from Kyrie, and it was just completely flipped at the beginning. Like, I think Derek Jones Jr. maybe caught a lob like within the first 5 minutes. Yeah. Kyrie was, doing those, close range jumpers in the paint, like hitting a couple floaters. Him and Luka, I think they both finished the first quarter in double figures scoring.
Yeah.
And yeah, it actually looked like they were going to completely run away with it in those first 5 minutes. It's like, oh shit, Boston don't know what to do. Not just without Porzingis, but with I feel like Dallas's kind of rim shyness in the first 2 games wasn't just when Porzingis was on the floor. It was like, we can't make this our diet of shots because we're not going to be getting it consistently throughout the series. And then obviously like the 3-ball just hasn't worked for them all series long. But then conversely, Jason Tatum just finally decided to show up. Like in that first quarter, he hit what felt like his first jumpers of the series. I think he had 3 threes in the first. And just like playing with so much more confidence, shooting over closeouts, which he's been like so recalcitrant to do, making decisions so much faster, so much more decisively. I mean, there was all that talk after game 2. It's like, oh, they're turning him into a playmaker, and it's like,
playmaker takes 25 shots but just misses most of them.
Exactly. Like he's not throwing these amazing passes. He's being forced to pass on every other possession basically, because the shots aren't going down for him. That first half was just like so good. You could see where Dallas were going to be able to win the game if they were to win the game, and maybe where like a look back into the series was. And then then it was, I feel like it was really just back to a bit more of the same in the second half. Like Boston went on that incredible run, and then for what feels like the 5th time this playoffs, they survived a bed shitting experience. They gave up a 22-2 run, and somehow just like squeaked through at the end.
And it was like it wasn't even a tale of 2 halves. It was like a tale of 4 quarters. Like that third quarter was so infuriating as someone who's rooting for the Dallas Mavericks. It was so infuriating, but it was just so good. Like everything was going right for the Boston Celtics. Like they clearly, it's not fun to congratulate Joe Mazzulla, but they really have made some incredible adjustments. Like they come out and the best adjustment is hit your shots, which they did do. But just to come out and put solid defenders on the ball every single time, make sure that the lob threat wasn't there, and like. If you're Jason Kidd, like where I want to go next is that you were talking about Derek Jones Jr.'s reduced role, and that's also up there with Daniel Gafford. Gafford and Jones both played 16 minutes in this game, just completely non-factors. Lively and Green were the ones who mostly subbed them out, and I'll let you talk about one Tim Hardaway Jr. later. But it was just like, if you're Jason Kidd, like you've sort of thrown everything against the wall. Like the dudes who got DNPs are like, obviously Markieff Morris, Omax Prosper and stuff, like dudes who aren't going to play. Like you've had your game where you've played Kleber heavy minutes. You've had this game where you've played Tim Hardaway Jr. heavy minutes. Like
Exum and Hardy have had shots as well.
There's not much like, and I thought it was a little bit cheeky at the end of the first quarter where they sat Luka maybe a little bit earlier than he would, brought in Jalen Hardy, and it's like, oh, okay, they're actually, Jason Kidd's. I don't know if you should maybe be this confident that they're going to do that well, but like fucking, if you can do it, right? If you can get Luka some rest, and then obviously they rushed back, and the first quarter was 30-21. But yeah, where do you want to go from this? You talk a bit about Dallas's downfall, and then I think at the end we'll talk about the comeback.
Well, it is just like you said, like the route. I feel like all the things that could have given them a win in this series or this game, like, have happened, Kyrie had a really good game. Like, he showed up in game 3. Luka's just been great all series long, obviously. Derek Jones Jr. hasn't worked, so you've just put him to the side. You haven't worried about like having your best perimeter defender on the floor, because honestly, it just hasn't seemed to matter for Boston, like who's guarding either of the Jays. Like, they can have a good or a bad game, at their own whim. Like you're saying, you've gone through the rotation completely. And then on the flip side, like, you've gotten the bad game out of Jason Tatum. You've gotten like 3 not great shooting games from Boston as well from 3. Like, they haven't had their, fucking
50-60%.
They haven't had their 20 of 40 3-point shooting that they have every few games. But like, you haven't managed to get either of those incidents to line up with each other. And that's the only way you're really going to steal a win. Boston is just too professional in every other aspect. And then I think also, like, I will mention it here. Those Tim Hardaway minutes were like, they just didn't work at all. And Kidd really, really stuck with it, He was just like rushing shots on offense. Like, I think he just took a really, really early contested mid-range jumper over Jaylen Brown or something, which is just like, what the fuck are you doing? On defense, like, they're basically posting him up every single time, like, just to try and get something going from that. And it was just like he was minus 16 in his 19 minutes in a 7-point loss, which is like by far the worst performance of anyone out there. But you stuck with him for 19 minutes, so maybe you let the game slip away at some point there in those Tim Hardaway minutes.
And the run back was sort of like PJ Washington finding his shot as well. PJ Washington with that, let's talk about a specific moment, the moving screen on Drew Holiday. Not a moving screen, I don't think. Well, actually, the foul that got Luka kicked out of the game. Actually, just a lot of calls, like a lot of fucking non-calls, and I think it like a good story for this game is at the very end where Derek White's like, hey, I'm going to intentionally foul this player, grabs Tim Hardaway Jr.'s arm, and I've listened to podcasts where players are like, they've explained how the intentional fouling goes, where they say to the ref, hey, I'm fouling, and you just need to gently touch them. The ref goes, look, you said you were going to foul. You can have it. But he fucking grabbed Tim Hardaway Jr.'s arm, pulled it, says to the ref, that's a foul, and the ref just let him play. I don't like.
Thank God he missed the 3.
It's like, I understand, like, you're trying to make it like more of a flowy game, and you're trying to like make it fucking what's like just a bit rougher, right? But like that one where Luka just undercut Jaylen Brown, both players fell. Luka probably shouldn't have fallen. Both players fell there. That's a non-call. The non-call at the end. A few just chopping of arms. And Drew Holiday's been really good at these extended these more loose foul rules, which is just like credit to him. But it was a wrestling match.
And it's good when there was a lot of Luka or Jason Tatum going up for a layup, getting a bit of contact, and then not getting the call. I like that because it's like, all right, like, well, they were still being defended well. They missed the shot. Like, why should they get rewarded in this scenario? Like, we don't want to watch the team's 2 marquee players just take free throws all day long, and like
that's what the regular season's for.
Exactly, and we love it for that. But you're right. Then there were. just not like the consistency, I guess, which is, that's all we ask for as fans, isn't it, Sean?
I mean, I'll get very angry at the refs. But, Boston Celtics have survived. Do you have any more game points or move on? Just as you drink.
Not really. Just I think it's really important to note that Boston really shat the bed, and Dallas couldn't do anything with it. Yeah. And it's weird because it's like this Boston team. I mean, we've been saying this all year long, and we'll get into it in the next segment as well. But like, they're clearly the best team in the NBA. Yeah. But like, they also have this like tendency to just play awful basketball for like 5 or 6 minutes. Like when they had so much flow in this game of like that drive and kick game, you know, like just moving the ball so much, everyone getting a touch, and then for some reason, like when the other team's going to run, Jason Tatum's like, I'm just going to dribble for 12 seconds and then like try and penetrate. I'm not going to get anything, and then maybe I'll pass it late to someone. Yeah. It's like 2 minutes ago you were executing this offense like perfectly. They can't be defending you that much harder now.
I guess it's like the Kobe mentality and stuff. But it's just stupid. Like you've got one of the best cohesive teams ever. Yeah. Like Sam Hauser is hitting shots without bringing the ball below his nose. Yeah. Like everything's clicking. Stop fucking ISOing on the best defender.
Yeah, and just like looking completely panicked while he's doing it as well. Like there's no. I know exactly what I'm doing here. Like I'm gonna get this great step back on him. And it's like like I don't know. Yeah.
That's why the assist shit is just so insincere and why we make fun of him, because it's like, man, you just say you're a passing dude, and we know that you're just a scoring wing who's good on defense. That's fine. Like, you're allowed to be a scoring wing, right? It's just there's multiple reasons I hate Boston winning a title. But let's move on to a broader Boston point. So assuming they win, I mean, if any team is to come back from a 3-0 deficit, is it going to be the team going against a Porzingis-less Boston Celtics?
I mean, I'm not convinced.
I mean, you and I have been on podcasts before and say comebacks aren't going to happen. So let's say they do go on to win. Boston Celtics would have 18 titles, which would put them ahead of the Los Angeles Lakers, who have 17. Third place, Golden State Warriors. Yeah, right. Do you know who is fourth?
I'm just coming up. It'll be the Chicago Bulls.
It's Chicago Bulls with 6.
Nice.
Boston Celtics, every single player on their roster, every single important player, is signed until next season at least. The only players who are expiring, who you might say are slightly important, Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman. Both guys who I think you can re-sign on the minimum.
Or probably just let Xavier Tillman walk.
He fucking played well today. There's a dude on X, formerly known as Twitter, who had this thing where he's like, man, I hope Mazzulla just plays Xavier Tillman so he can hit a stupid corner 3 at the end of a run and just piss off fans. And everyone was retweeting it. That's exactly what he did. But this core's together. This core, assuming they haven't re-signed anyone, they can actually decline Jaden Springer and Oscar Brissett. Okay, well, if they decline Jaden Springer's $4 million team option, which you have to hope they do, they're going to be just below the second apron, but that's before drafting a player, and that's before signing all the minimum free agents who I think they're going to be very interesting in the ring-chasing veteran minimum market. But every single one of their core players is under the age of 30, apart from Holiday, who's 34, and Al Horford, who's 38. What's to say this team can't go on a dynastic-like run, Marco?
Probably Al Horford. He just has to run out of juice at some point, you know.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if he retires after this. Yeah, but can't they just replace him?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too stuck in the weeds on Al Horford in particular, but he is a very unique player, and they use him, the way that the reason Brad Stevens got him back is I just need Al Horford. I don't need it. I don't need any other sort of player. I need someone who can hit threes and is comfortable defending on the perimeter and is centered-ish. Yeah. You're probably not going to get someone for the Al Horford number, with that same skill set. But you're right. If you're like, let's just hope that Porzingis is healthy for like X amount of time. They've been fine in the playoffs without him. Then yeah, like you can bring in someone to replace him. And I didn't even think about the ring chasing point you made, because yeah, like then you actually can fill that hole at backup center as well, which has been their biggest issue. I mean, again, it hasn't really been an issue, but like if Porzingis gets injured and you're like, don't worry, we don't have to play Luke Cornett or Xavier Tillman, we can play, you know, a 31-year-old center who used to be good, and now is pretty good.
Who's going to play 5 to 0 minutes?
Yeah, exactly right. Like if you can just kind of shore up that option, then yeah, like I don't see any reason. They can't be super competitive next year and beyond that. Yeah, Drew's he's not declining like at a pace that makes you worried about him turning 35 next year. The only thing is like, you know, did they maybe miss a couple of teams that are better than them, and that they might need like actual, you know, proper recruitment to get past. Like I don't want to be like, oh, you know, they didn't have to play the Milwaukee Bucks or the Denver Nuggets or anything like that. But it's like, all right, well, if Porzingis is injured and Al Horford is old and you have to play against Giannis, like, how's that going to go? You have to play against Jokic, how's that going to go?
Yeah, or even just the Timberwolves.
Definitely.
Yes, I mean, I'll just mention that some of their targets that they could sign in free agency are PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker, Jeff Green, he's got a team option for $8 million. Joe Ingles, JaVale McGee, Thaddeus Young.
Oh, yeah.
That's an alright man, but he might not be good at basketball. Kevin Love, Danilo Gallinari. I mean, on the guard front, Eric Gordon. Is Nicholas Batum going to come back for another year? He's probably going to get paid a bit over the minimum, I think. Like, there's names out there. Jay Crowder, the return of. Fuck, that's all right. So there's definitely names out there. It's sort of like the Denver Nuggets last year, where it's like, oh, okay, did they have a bit of a Lemicki run, right? Maybe, but you know, again, same as what we said for Boston, like you can only play who's in front of you. This year, like, you could say that they deserve to be in the following round against the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, it was a very hard fought series, and it's like, okay, well, if Denver get there, then Denver make it all the way. But we're not like, oh, this completely invalidates Denver's title last year. It's like, oh fuck, okay, they got beaten by a team in 7 games, right? I'd like to see what happens to Boston next year, but then it's like in the East, like who's the team? Like you know, if Philly get Paul George and or someone else, right? If the Knicks re-sign all their CAA clients, like there's just not as much firepower. Like, you know, it's like, are you scared about Dame and Giannis after, like, they still employ Doc Rivers, you know? And they actually employ who's the Darvin Ham now? He's an assistant coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Someone was like, they're collecting a list of just coaches who stand there and do nothing. So it's like, why can't they just go on another run? But maybe they're in a similar situation as the Denver Nuggets last year, where it's like, oh my god, their whole core is under 30. They can just do it again. Maybe this is the future and the league that Adam Silver wants, where he wants all these titles that's sort of not in purgatory, but all there, and everyone has a go. Everyone cycles through the titles.
Yeah, I don't know. There is but there's always been something dynastic about this Boston team since Brad Stevens moved to the front office. Where it's like, all right, well, they're going to win a championship sometime in the next 5 years. They could win every championship in the next 5 years. The Denver, I mean, making that comparison with Denver, like, you know, did they also just come up against their worst matchup and they were a bit out of legs from the year before? Whereas Boston have they barely played any basketball this year, man. They've lost 2 playoff games. They breezed to 60 plus wins. So you hope that they come back. Porzingis barely played, and then when he did, he got an injury that nobody's ever heard of, so they'll be super cautious with him next year. They might just be fully, you know, full of beans and raring to go next year.
Full of beans. It's it's interesting. Like I was on TikTok and I saw this I saw this really cringe TikTok where it was like, if people say, "Oh, I don't want Boston to win, they're a super team," and then someone's like, "But you're not just doing it for this team, you're doing it for," and then it was like Jared Sullinger and Rondo and Jeff Green, right? And then it's like Isaiah Thomas when his sister died and he put up like 48 in the playoffs, and then like the Jays being young, Marcus Smart, and then it just went through like every single role play, like the Evan Turner years where Evan Turner was actually quite good and they just couldn't get a good enough of their own pick, so then they're drafting 16th, but luckily the Brooklyn picks gave them whatever. Just went through all these role players and all these dudes and everyone that they've had, like Gordon Hayward snapping his leg, and it's like, fuck, they really could have won a title in those like Cav LeBron years when they had Kyrie Irving, or even before they had Kyrie Irving. Like they really could have won a title then. And this is and they're only sort of just arriving, and they are still so young, which is like pretty cool. The Jays are 26 and 27 respectively. It doesn't matter which one's which. It feels like they've been here forever because they sort of have since they were teenagers. And that's what you look for in dynasties. You look for guys that have like been weathered, and it's not just like their first run together.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was interesting. I think it was on the Bill Simo pod. Because so this will be title number 18. 2008 was title number 17. They're like, other 16 came in like the first half of their existence. Like they've won one title in the last, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like 30, 40 years or something like that. Would have
been like the late 80s.
Yeah. So like, it would have been that last Bird team at 86. Yeah. So what's that, 38 years? They've won, this will be their second title in 38 years, which is like, that's not the Boston you have in your head. It's like, they're always winning, like they're always around, they're always good. And it's like, they are actually, but like there is, as you're saying, just so much more parity. And then the super team thing, this roster's just so well constructed and like in the complete right way as well. Like they got Derek White when he was shooting, terrible for the San Antonio Spurs. Like nobody, that was such a marginal move at the time. Just turns out that he might be like the third best player on the team when he needs to be. And like,
and an all-star, for real.
Like, and in every game he's made a big three when they've needed it. In every game he's made a huge block when they've needed it as well. The Drew Holiday thing, it's like, well, somebody shouldn't have let that happen. Another GM should have made a better offer for that.
Have you been hearing a lot of pods where people are like, you really shouldn't have let that happen? Have you? I'm just like, fuck, how much can they control it? Like, I guess like what everyone's been saying is they should like brought in a third team into the conversation and like forced the third team to trade for Drew Holiday. But as soon as like you shook hands with Portland, you're like, okay, we're removed of this.
I think it's less that and more like another GM should have just offered 2 firsts for him or something. Because he's like,
fuck, the Warriors were in it. It was gonna be like Chris Paul on a bag of chips. Not that we would have won a title, but it is.
But that's why you had the Chris Paul salary for you.
We still got it actually. So mind you. But Joel Embiid tweeted that. Joel Embiid was like, "Did the Bucks give them the championship?"
Nah.
First of all, why are you tweeting that? That's fucking insane.
Shouldn't you be working on your ankle or something, brother? Like,
but it's like, what the? That's not the account. It's like Tari Eason being like, they're trying to control us with grapes. Tari Eason, to go back to you and I 4 weeks ago, I think he's 5 weeks ago. He's one of those dudes where you trade for him like Aaron Gordon, like where you're like, okay, this could be nothing, but he could actually be like a really good role player for the next 10 years for us.
And you think he would be?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. He's really good.
He's like 3'4", 4 size. He's just been injured, like.
Yeah, but I mean, the Aaron Gordon thing's like, Aaron Gordon was like
second contract,
and like borderline all-star, taking a step down. Tari Eason's is going to be taking a step up.
Okay, true. That's a good point. Yeah, I just want all of those Houston guys to be in different situations.
So final point on that super team thing, because. I don't know, people are like, Porzingis is like all-star level player, blah, blah, blah. Again, they got him when his reputation was absolutely rock bottom. Any other team could have gotten Porzingis. Like, he was one of the most gettable players. Washington would have given away for practically anything. Just Boston were the one to actually go and do it. So, like, it's not like Porzingis is an all-star and was like, get me to the Boston Celtics. I need to go win a ring with those guys. It was like, I'm playing for the Washington Wizards. Like, come have me.
Yeah, they constructed a perfect team. Yeah, and like, having your like all defensive guard sit there and be like, I'm happy to be in the dunker spot and not touch the ball. It's like, how many point guards are you going to get like that? Like the zinger, just being able to sit in the corner on offense. Yeah.
Or like grab it on a cut and immediately like throw it over my head to someone on the perimeter. You know? Like,
I guess just get good players. Like if you can get the best role players, like we were talking about this a year ago with Aaron Gordon and KCP, you get them. Yeah, I mean, team building, get your stars, and then fill them out with role players. I mean, this is very
cheap as chips, mate.
This is very base level stuff that we're saying.
I could bloody jam the New Orleans Pelicans at this stage.
You should get 2K16 to prove it to us. All right, let's move on to some news. First of all, Jerry West has passed away. Rest in peace, Jerry West. Do you have any comment?
Just he had a cool career. Like again, we're talking about like the Lakers is one of the most successful franchises. He would played for them for what, like 14, 15 years? Only won one championship and had like 9 finals appearances or something. Had the only Nathan Buckley in NBA history, winning finals MVP on a losing team. And then just was an executive on 8 championships. So like
pretty crazy.
You know, he didn't soar at all. Like
got poached. He was with the Clippers most recently. Got poached from the Golden State Warriors. Has been the consultant, famously known for saying don't trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love.
Right.
Which at the time, I as a Warriors
hugely
fan,
controversial.
No, at the time I was like, fucking, if you can get Kevin Love, get Kevin Love. Have you seen that one game? But I was like, fucking get Kevin Love. And then he was the guy that said, I will resign if you trade Klay Thompson for, which is like, fuck. And I just, to be a fly in the room in heaps of conversations like that. And what must he have said to, like, the Clippers? Like, if you trade Terrence Mann for James Harden, I will fucking resign right now. Doesn't age as well, but just like fucking huge basketball brain. And, what a life.
And like it's crazy, like him. I'm Bill Walton recently, but like even like guys like Hubie Brown, who it's just like, man, you've seen so much NBA. Like I think Hubie Brown was coaching in the first post ABA NBA merger season. It's like, what are you still doing here?
Old heads, huh? Next piece of news: Jimmy Butler doesn't want to leave the Miami Heat, coming from Shams Charania of The Athletic. Bit of clarification coming from Jimmy Butler's camp, and maybe they've seen the trade rumors swirling around, saying that he's focused on an extension, and the whole sort of trade rumors came from the fact that he wants an extension, and then Pat Riley came out and publicly said, we don't want to pay an old man that much money. So if this is coming from Jimmy Butler's agency, a little bit of a poor move, because you've sort of said, hey, we're not actually requesting a trade, we just want a contract wherever it comes from. So then maybe it's from the Heat. But I mean, both Shams and Woj both usually get their stuff from the players' agents. So it's a bit of an interesting deal. Yeah,
but I think there's also a bit of like maybe the market wasn't what he expected as well, because I think if you're Jimmy Butler, and even if you're me, Marco, and Jimmy Butler becomes available, you expect kind of everyone to be in on him. But like, it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like everyone was like, oh yeah, I'll get Jimmy Butler if I can get Jimmy Butler. You and Dante talked about it on pod last week, was it? 2 weeks ago. About how, like, the Jimmy Butler to Philly thing is like, all right, well, that's, if you can't get Paul George, you can do that, but like the risk is higher and the reward is lower. So like that might be like the equation that lots of teams were doing looking at Jimmy Butler. It's like, all right, well, like, we want a two-way wing, it's like the final piece of our championship team. Well, Paul George is going to be our first choice. Jimmy Butler's going to be our second choice. But even then, like, it's there's much more of a gulf between those two than maybe people expected. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it is Jimmy Butler's camp being like, all right, look, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like I do want to stay here, and that was always my intention. But like maybe I will take a contract that's less than the max, or less than what I was originally expecting.
Yeah. And I imagine like when the Warriors were like, oh, we're interested in him, like we'll give you just Chris Paul. Because part of the Warriors' payment is, hey, we have to pay this like 38-year-old $50 million for the next 3 years. So no, we're not going to give up a pick. Like, I imagine that's what teams out there were happy to pay, but then the Heat would just never make that move.
Yeah.
And like, I imagine Jimmy wants to win basketball games and can't afford to just take a year off, like trying to get out of a situation. But also good news that Jimmy's been known to, when he wants to get out of somewhere, really fucking push to get out of there. So good to know that he's not going to do that. It sort of seems like, okay, maybe he's going to compromise. He's going to be the one. He's not going to get the third stringers and just beat up some kids.
It does. The Heat. I don't know, this off-season for the Heat's going to feel really weird because like they're not really going to be in on anyone. There's no like they're not getting Paul George.
They're not getting Donovan Mitchell.
And like they also just really underperformed last season. So it's like, are they just going to be not very good next year? Like is that the reality we're looking at? And is Jimmy maybe then also thinking like, fuck, maybe I don't have the juice in me to be the best player on a good playoff team anymore?
And we've seen almost a decade of Bam Adebayo just short-arming those push shots that he gets given.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Great regular season.
He's been around for so long.
He's been deep in the playoffs for so long.
I thought he was alright in... did he get injured in the Boston series, or did he play the whole thing?
I feel like he's never been injured.
I feel like he was alright in that series. Like, not blow your socks off, but let's have a quick look. He played all 5 games, 22 points. Yeah.
Actually, I mean, above 20.
Yeah.
First time above 20 regular season. Just playoffs.
Yeah. But they really, truly had no other good players.
Yeah, Tyler Hero's
this time.
star has worn off. Like Terry Rozier is just like a dude. Like, we know he's an average guy. And they sort of like accepted their fate when they traded a pick for Scary Terry. But yeah. Final piece of news. I wanted to obviously say this to yourself. The New Orleans Pelicans could move out of the first round and pick up future seconds, coming from Christian Clark of NOLA.com. The report writes, quote, New Orleans doesn't have any second round picks until 2030 because they're all traded out for various reasons. They're pretty, like, the report said, you guys don't have enough room to develop someone new, which is so fine. You don't.
We've got like 8 players, who
need
with
minutes.
a max of like 3 years experience.
You definitely don't need to develop players. But the fact that the report says you're going to look to pick up seconds, which obviously you just buy for a bag of chips, right? You're picking up seconds, it just reeks of penny pinching from Gail Benson. And I wonder how you're going to dodge the luxury tax, is what I'm thinking. Like, if a biggest trade is coming, if you're not going to re-sign Jonas Valanciunas, which it definitely sounds like you're not, I don't know how you're going to bring in, like, a player of Brandon Ingram's caliber and get a starting centre and be under the luxury tax.
Well, I don't know what the fuck we're doing here, man.
Yeah.
Like, with the great... oh my god, I'm having the worst sickness mental blank. Who's our GM that you hate? Who's not actually our GM?
Griffin.
David Griffin. Thank you. Jesus Christ. The great David Griffin, like in his exit interview, was like, "No, we're actually going to make some moves this off season." Like last few years, I've been lying, but I'm actually going to make a big move this off season. And then like just nothing is materializing at all. Like you want to at this stage, I don't know. Like you feel like at this stage, some seriously strong suggestions and rumors should start to be developing about like the centers that we're interested in like the potential Brandon Ingram trades, and it's been pretty dry. And you're right, that does scream to me that like we're not going to be doing anything to like genuinely improve our roster. And more so that, like we ducked under the luxury tax by like a couple $100 by waiving Kira Lewis Jr. or trading him at the trade deadline. Like we're going to be trying to do the same thing. And it's just so shit.
I know. It's like going for Watford basketball. It's literally not your fault, Marco. I want you to know that you're okay.
Thanks, man.
It's the fucking owner's fault.
Well, especially when they had a very good constructive season. I don't think any New Orleans fan left that season being like, like we're not in a good way. It was the best basketball we've played in the Zion Williamson era, and like the most complete our teams looked. And then it's good. It was like good for David Griffin to go in like, nah, we're going to be trading people, because it's like, all right, well, what that says is either you're making a decision on Zion and Brandon Ingram, or like you're just going to seriously upgrade us at the center position. That was what it felt like with Valanciunas not looking like he's going to re-sign. But now it's like, there's just no clear indication of what move you're going to make, and if you are going to make one, it's going to be marginal once again.
I'm working on an article for the Deep2.com on the New Orleans Pelicans options this offseason. And I'm looking at how you can replace the centre position, and it's like, okay, well, you're going to have the full non-tax player MLE, right? Which is what Gal Benson loves. So it's like, okay, well, we all know what Zion does. We all know his strengths and weaknesses. Who are the dudes that, in a perfect world, you can get? Because you've got the assets to throw in like fucking 7 picks, right? Can you get Miles Turner? Like, you don't actually want to offer 7 picks for Miles Turner. Can you get Brook Lopez? Maybe, honestly, maybe. Can you get Jaren Jackson Jr.? No, I even think if you do offer the 7 picks, you can't. Al Horford, 38 years old, right? I would say what they did last year would be like your top 4 options of getting a centre that would be perfect next to Zion, shot blocking and shooting. So then it's like, okay, taking a step down, who might be available for the mid-level exception? Maybe a first. You got Naz Reid. Can you overpay in picks for Naz Reid? I don't know, like that's a bit of a risk. Karl Anthony Towns got his own problems, got his own fucking financial issues. Kelly Olynyk, more of a role player.
Also old.
Jorop Reith.
Well,
would you look at him and go, okay, well, the shot blocking is real on a bad team.
But the 3-point shot seems to be there as well.
But are you going to say this is our big swing? Because you've made your JV swing and it didn't work. Is your big swing Jorop Reith, who was on a minimum last year, right?
No.
Jalen Smith, similar. Are you going to make a swing on a backup who might not actually ever be a starter? But you might have to. You might have to.
Oh, God. Yeah, because, look, the thing with JV is he wasn't the answer, but he was there for 82 games a season, and getting 10 rebounds, and scoring 15 points. You might not get that from Jorop Reith. You might get 50 games of all of the fun little stuff where, he gets 3 or 4 blocks and he really spaces the floor for Zion. You might get 30 games where he's just unplayable, because he's young and he's only played in Portland, blah, 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 blah. And then, it's like, well, look, we weren't taking any steps forward staying with JV, but we're taking a massive step back by going to a young guy instead of him. Look, if we traded for Miles Turner, I would I'd be so fine with it. At this stage,
100%. You definitely should. Just to have it, Jonas Valanciunas took 1.5 threes per game last season and shot 31% on them.
But how many ball fakes did he have?
Jorop Reith 3.6 on 36%.
Yeah, right.
And that's a bad offensive ecosystem. And then it's like, how do you measure defense for a dude on a bad team? Seriously. I would love you to just go. I think Miles Turner's off the table. I don't think you can get him because he's just so essential to what Eastern Conference finalist Indiana does, right? And they want to win. I think not to give away my article too much, but you sort of just have to take a swing. And Portland are probably going to say, well, we want to keep the guy that we had. He might be a free agent, but we want him. Then are you giving him
I just don't want to be starting Jorop Reith at centre next year. That's just such a crazy suggestion.
But
I love the fit, but
Well, if Minnie wants to start penny pinching, would you feel better with Naz Reid? Let's say you're giving a first and cap relief, right?
I'd probably feel better about it. But again, just in like a consistency, like I've seen this guy play 22 minutes of basketball a night. Man,
I would get both.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Like we need someone to start instead of JV, and then we need like a potential perfect fit backup option next to Zion. You know.
Yeah.
And then the dream is, and the hope is, and it was working at points down the season, is like you actually just need to play one center, and Zion plays 14 minutes at center a night or whatever. You know, like that's good. Yeah, and he did it down the end of the year in a pinch. Yeah. Would you trade straight up Dyson Daniels for Naz Reid? Yeah.
Because that saves them a lot of money.
100%.
Gives them a potential Mike Conley replacement with 3 years of team control. What if it's this year's 21st pick and Dyson?
100%. Well, what, we're going to trade the 21st pick for, 2030 second rounders or whatever, right?
Well,
Then I'd definitely do that, 100%. I'm not married to, I like Dyson, but I'm not married to him at all. Like, I'd take the sixth man of the year. Shooting center over him for sure.
I just realised you might be giving Jose Alvarado some of your mid-level exception.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well,
isn't he on a?
No, so he's on that Jalen Brunson stuff. So you can pick up his team option, and Jokic did this as well because he was second round pick or undrafted. You can pick up that team option worth $2 million, but then it becomes unrestricted. Right. Or you can make him a free agent right now. And he's restricted.
And then offer him whatever.
And he's a good backup.
So, No, we want to keep him, and also he didn't really. I don't think anyone would offer him money this offseason because he didn't have a great season.
Like, who needs a backup point guard bad enough to give him?
Yeah. Like he actually turned out to be not as good as TJ McConnell, which which we all thought he was better.
Is EJ Liddell good?
Hard to say.
Played 5 games.
Mate, he plays well in the VFL, but then he comes up to the seniors and he just...
You're thinking of EJ Whitten too. That'd be nice if EJ Liddell's good.
Yeah, I'm not going to count it at all. He's just like...
fair enough. Good pod. Next time we talk, we would probably have crowned a champion.
Yeah.
When's?
I hope not, but I think so.
Yeah. When's the game? Is it
game
Saturday?
4 is Saturday. I think there's a shorter break. Yeah,
is Saturday our time. Yeah.
Damn, that's awesome.
Wow, that's.
I can watch another basketball game.
Fuck. Yeah.
God, I might watch every game of the NBA Finals live this year.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Mark, thanks for coming on. I'll speak to you next time.
Peace.
The Jeff Van Gundy Tribute Show is your fortnightly dose of the lighter side of basketball, hosted by me, Marco.
And me, Lucas. We take a more laid-back approach, talking about the NBA, the WNBA, FIBA basketball, culture, whatever tickles our fancy or grinds our gears.
The show is filled with great guests, classic gags, and a healthy dose of tangents in honour of the great man himself.
The Jeff Van Gundy Tribute Show, fortnightly on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.
Loves just talking about the league, certain things like that.
You want to talk WNBA? Maybe some WNBL? Australian Opals chat? Heck, even dabble in some EuroLeague? Find the W Basketball Show on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.